In this video, I'm going to show you how I set up the 55-gallon system that I showed you how to make a couple weeks ago, as well as how I go about operating. Hey y'all, welcome to Homesteading Monday. I'm Gray Madden from Self-Reliance Publishing, and today I'm going to be showing you how I set up my 55-gallon system and how I go about operating. First, I want to talk a little bit about some of the pros and cons to the system. Pro would be the cost and ease of setup. It's a really inexpensive system. I used drums that I had lying around. I think I purchased them for $15 a piece. They're food grade 55-gallon plastic drums. Then I used mainly recycled wood to build the rest of the system. Altogether, I've got maybe $20, $25 in the system. If I had gone out and bought everything new, I might be maybe pushing $40, $45. So it's an inexpensive system, and it was really simple to put together. It took me maybe an hour or so to do it. So that would be the upside to it. Another upside is, in one hand, ease of maintenance. I don't have to tend this system very frequently like I did the 10-gallon tote systems. Those, I felt like I had to go in there and check on them every couple of days. I tried to do it every day. This one I can let go a week and not really worry about it. I feel like the bigger systems sort of regulate themselves a little bit better than the smaller systems do. That's just been my personal experience here. Mileage may vary. But a downside to it would be the labor involved in harvesting the castings and harvesting the worms. Overall, it's not that much more difficult, but when you compare it to my flow-through system, the castings simply fall to the bottom and essentially harvest themselves. There's not a whole lot of work involved in getting at it. And then to harvest the worms in that system, I would have to dig through the bedding and pull them out and do some table harvesting. So that would be the same here. But for this system, I'll show you how I set it up, and then get into the maintenance of it and sort of the operational side of things. Right now, I just sort of temporarily have it set up here. I just got it thrown up on some cinder blocks to get it off the ground. I've got this piece of 1/4-inch plywood that I've cut to the right size as sort of a lid, got it painted, and I don't know if you can tell in the video, but I've got it at a little bit of an angle just to allow that rainwater to roll off the lid. I'm not sure how necessary that really is, but it made me feel better, so I went ahead and did it. So this is how I have it sort of temporarily set up. Eventually I want to build a legitimate framework to hold these things, so I can stack them one on top of the other, so I can fit in more worms in my limited space here and get more production per square foot. But for right now, this is working for me. The framework will happen later on down the road when it's actually necessary. But at any rate, let's dig in and check out these worms. Got the landscape fabric on top, as well as some newspaper on top to help hold the moisture in and keep out some of the flies and pests best I can. And there I just have the bedding and the worms. I try and feed the worms about once a week or so. First I'll feed on one side of the bin, then I'll feed on the other half of the bin. I got some food here, just garden scraps, food scraps, weeds and stuff. And I'll put it in sort of the middle portion of one half of the bin. I like to keep a couple of inches of free space going all the way around, just to ensure that it's completely covered by the newspaper and the landscape fabric to help prevent too bad of a fly problem. So far it seems to be working pretty well. Don't have any soldier fly larva in there as of yet. Hopefully it stays that way. A lot of times it'll be popping up by now. I had a little bit of a problem last year, but so far so good this year. So that's about it. Feed them about once a week, add new bedding to it periodically. I mentioned that one of the downsides would be the labor involved in harvesting the castings and the worms. To harvest the castings in this system, or the worms, you got to come in here and physically dig out the castings along with the bedding and worms and stuff, and then you're going to have to put this in some sort of a sifter to sift out your castings. If that's all you're after is the castings, you sift out your castings, throw the rest back in the bin, and you're good to go. If you are wanting to also harvest some worms, then you would again sift out the castings just like you did, but then you would take your bedding and the worms and maybe use a table harvesting method or whatever you've got going on to separate the bedding for the worms. I do have a video on table harvesting worms if you're interested in learning how to do that. So it's a little bit more labor intensive to harvest your worm castings compared to the flow-through system where it just drops out the bottom. You can't get much simpler than that. But all in all, it's really not that big of a deal, and I'm pretty happy with the system. Overall, on a daily basis, it's pretty simple to operate. It's lowered my workload quite a bit compared to the bin system, which I had to tend to more frequently. The extra work involved in harvesting the castings is really not that great, and harvesting the worms is basically identical to the flow-through system. So all in all, it's not that bad of a system. If it's something that, if you've got a couple of drums lying around and you're looking for a solution for a, you know, I won't really call this large scale, but medium scale worm bin, something larger than a tote system, but maybe not too much bigger, this is a good option for you. I'd encourage you to set one up, see how it works for you. If you've got any questions about it, if I skipped over something or something's not clear, feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to answer any questions you might have. As always, I appreciate every like, every comment, and every subscribe. Thank you for watching, and we will see you next time.